Ask the question one more time.
So before a practicum student shows up at the reservation for any of the schools, but this one, since you've got some experience, what would be the best advice you would give them, especially in terms of like what language are you using, the textbook or the workforce sort of application? And if it's still not clear, I can try and work on another question. We can come back.
Well, when you're talking about, are you talking about how I'm teaching language to my students?
Yeah, well, we can start with that for sure.
Okay. I grew up personally, when I grew up in a very formal English setting where you're diagramming sentences and you're looking at sentence structure, and you're not necessarily focusing so much on writing skills or communication skills. Everything was drill and kill, drill and kill, drill and kill, and you had to diagram everything. My grandmother was an English teacher before me, and she's a stickler when it comes to diagramming. She's a stickler when it comes to speaking correctly. So I kind of grew up in that old school approach. When I went to university, that approach was kind of thrown out. 6 Traits of Writing was coming up, and I was educated in that philosophy of you don't necessarily have to dissect every single word and every single sentence, because really that's not going to teach you how to write, in my opinion. Just because I came from that school of thought, the 6 Traits of Writing. At first I was really shocked going into that sort of mindset, but once I took the course, it became more apparent that we need to really be teaching writing. There's some different areas of writing that we need to be teaching, and using the 6 traits students will eventually learn. Not necessarily the diagramming is important, but they'll learn those structures that they need to know in order to communicate, and through writing and through speaking, through those traits. Myself personally, I took a lot of the 6 Traits of Writing, and we were a 6 Traits of Writing school. We still are. We're also using Step Up to Writing now. I'm focusing on writing right now because I feel like you need to be a good reader and a good writer in order. I mean, that's what I'm teaching. I'm teaching reading, writing, and speaking and listening, how to communicate, how to be able to go out and go into a high school setting, how to go into different settings and be successful. I think that it's my job to be able to send my students on into the 9th grade. They need to be able to write. They need to be able to write very well. And we practice writing a lot. I do a lot of writing in this classroom. We also do the guided reading, and we dissect content, and we dissect word structures and stuff and we really focus on comprehension. This particular group of students that I teach, I did my master's degree in the research project that I put together. My paper that I put together for research was looking at different socioeconomic statuses, and how one group of students in the more dominant society, when they come to school with a much larger vocabulary than the lower socioeconomic students. It's tremendous. I did a lot of reading and a lot of research on that, and people have done a lot of research on that particular subject. When kids start school at kindergarten, my particular group of kids, according to the research that I did and according to the research that I read, they come with a lot lower level vocabulary, and that already starts them off in they're struggling with language. My students are caught in this in-between of the white world language and their own language. They hear a different language spoken here because they have their native language at home, and it's just a different language. They struggle with it. They really do. So I have to work a lot on getting my kids caught up. Most of my students, I hate to generalize, but not most of them, a lot of my students are 2 to 3 years behind. So we're really working on writing, and we're working on reading. I focus on those two areas extensively. The writing is just, it's the Step Up to Writing program that we're using is fantastic. It really shows, it walks them through the writing process, and they learn the writing process, they learn how to draft, how to organize their ideas, and then how to publish. And I think that that's critical. I think a lot of reading is critical. If I can get my kids caught up a year or two, that's a big success for me. So I focus on academics. I don't necessarily focus on maybe workforce. I don't know. Can you define workforce?
Yeah, we're looking at it. We've talked a lot, and this is the linguistics class specifically, and it talks about competency in certain environments. So it's the purposes of education. Should you focus on giving students more of a focus on like standard English, the language they might hear at the university level, or is it more important to give them maybe some of the more technical aspects if they're planning on going into the workforce right after high school? Like, we were working in either automotive or working in customer service, like any of those careers. So is it like more important to just get the basics done, or is it worth it to expose them to university sort of communication styles?
Being a 7th and 8th grade teacher, I have to teach basics, They have to be able to go into high school and be prepared. And that's my goal, is to prepare them to be able to go into an English class and be able to write an essay. I know when I was growing up and going to school, I don't feel like I really learned how to write until I got into college, And then even in college, I don't know if I really learned how to write well. Once I started working on my graduate level classes, I became a writer. And I thought I was a writer in undergraduate school, but I didn't know anything. I don't want my students to not be writers. I want them to be able to write. I want them to be able to know how to put an essay together, all the different types of essays. And we like I said, we spend a lot of time writing, and we spend a lot of time reading, and we really, I have to work on basics because I have to get my kids caught up to a level where they can be competent in a dominant culture, so to speak. And I really want them to be good communicators in the verbal and the written sense, and that's my whole goal. And we work very hard at that, actually. So.
All right. This is we're looking at the language of the nonverbals as well. So we're examining gestures and visuals. And I look around the room and I see a lot of the same components you'd see in the English classroom, the posters about verbs and prepositions, but the difference is that they're now identified with the culture of the classroom. It's a lot of Native American images. So do you think that has affected your teaching style significantly, trying to be a culturally responsive teacher? Or do you think that it's still, even though maybe the images have changed, but the lesson still remains the same?
I have to do whatever I can do to get my kids to trust me, to believe in me, to have a respect for what I'm teaching. English is a boring